Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Konoha, Creating Infinite Bloodline from Daily Settlement. Chapter 41. Soon, all the sand ninjas who raided the camp were wiped out. After killing the puppet couple, Ishigamihara did not attack again, but retreated to the side to stay with Naoki. The latter was a little dazed at the moment, especially after seeing Ishigamihara's eyes. He hesitated several times to speak. If you have any questions, you can ask them directly. There is no need to hold it in. Ishigamihara took the initiative to say that. Naoki was relieved after hearing that. Then he didn't hesitate to get closer and look at Ishigamihara carefully. His expression was very strange. Yuan, tell me honestly, how many bloodlines do you have? He pointed at Ishigamihara's eyes, and his expression was so strange. It seems that you don't know much about our Ishigami clan. Naoki was puzzled. But Ishigamihara did not explain in detail, but just said, you can ask the Hokage when you go back. The Ishigami clan is neither special nor special. It's just that I am the most special one among them. I see. Naoki grimaced, not understanding why, but still gave a thumbs up and said, anyway, you are so handsome now. Then he whispered, one Byakugan and one Sharingan, doesn't it feel strange? After saying that, he looked around, afraid that his words would be heard by others, and hurriedly said, I heard that the Hyuga clan has a caged bird seal that can seal the Byakugan of the branch family. In addition, the people of the Uchiha clan. Alas, their tempers are too weird, and it's not easy to communicate with them. Ishigamihara just chuckled, patted Naoki on the shoulder, and did not answer directly, but changed the subject. How do you feel about fighting the enemy this time? Shang Shu heard this and his expression suddenly became serious. The battlefield is very dangerous. It's good that you understand this. There should be no danger in the camp now. You can stay here for now. What are you going to do? Naoki asked hurriedly. Ishigami principal said, I want to go to the front and take a look. The battle over there should not be over yet. Is it too dangerous? And your eyes, are they too eye-catching? Naoki said worriedly. Ishigamihara shook his head. It doesn't matter, I haven't thought about hiding these eyes. No matter whether it is Hyuga or Uchiha, they are all strangers to me, don't worry. As the first-generation grandson, Naoki may not care much about certain things in the village, but it does not mean that he does not understand the pros and cons, especially after Ishigamihara showed the two bloodlines of the Byakugan and Sharingan. Ishigamihara will inevitably be related to these two families in the future. And how these two families will entangle with Ishigamihara is also predictable. However, Ishigamihara is just as he said, since he came to the battlefield, he has never thought about hiding these. As for why, there is no other reason, he is confident enough. I dare not say anything else. After opening the Mangekyo, Ishigamihara at least has the power to protect himself in the ninja world, and this power is not just as simple as being able to protect himself. If Ishigamihara is willing, this power can also be used to change the current situation. I'm leaving. Ishigamihara said hello, and then disappeared in an instant. Naoki opened his mouth to speak. But in the end he didn't say much, just shook his head slightly, as if lamenting his own weakness. As for the others, they were still in a state of surprise at this time. The Konoha ninjas who returned to defend naturally saw Ishigamihara's eyes. These people were not lacking in knowledge, and they quickly associated a lot of things, looking at each other in bewilderment. Is that right? That's the Sharingan, someone murmured. No, that is an eye that is superior to the Sharingan. Someone said in a deep voice. What? Yes, I have heard that the Uchiha clan has a bloodline of eye technique called Mangekyo in addition to the Sharingan. It is rumored that the former Shira of the ninja world, Uchiha Madara, has such eyes. Hiss. What kind of powerful force would that be? Someone was shocked. That boy was brought here by Lord Orochimaru. Is he from Uchiha? There was also an Uchiha ninja in the crowd, but he had been in shock since he saw Ishigamihara's eyes. When he saw his companions looking at him, his expression changed, and he finally shook his head. I don't know, but I haven't seen him in my tribe. Rope Tree also heard these discussions and said, he is Ishigamihara. Ishigami. The Uchiha frowned upon hearing this, and then asked in surprise, is it the Ishigami clan that I know? I've heard of the Ishigami clan. Didn't they disperse and integrate into the village? Yes, there is such a family. I heard that they have been marrying with the Bloodline ninja clan since the Warring States period. The Uchiha looked very strange and complained, it is indeed that clan. During the Warring States period, they asked various ninja clans for female clan members. Even female clan members who have not awakened their bloodline are also the target of their pursuit. Soon, everyone understood Ishigamihara's identity and the possible origin of those eyes. Hiss. In other words, that boy has the blood of all the bloodline ninja clans in the ninja world. That red hair is from the Uzumaki clan, right? It should be correct. The left eye is obviously a Byakugan, belonging to the Hyuga clan, and the right eye is a Sharingan. Someone stopped talking here and couldn't help but look at the Uchiha. The latter's face changed several times, and he said in a deep voice, "Everyone, don't talk about this anymore." Hearing this, the others stopped talking immediately and understood what the Uchiha meant. Hearing this, Naoki couldn't help but look worried. On the other side, Ishigamihara was rushing forward quickly. As the distance got closer, the sound of fighting could be gradually heard. In his mind, Uchiha Izuna spoke again, "Kid, return to Uchiha. Now only Uchiha can protect you." Ishigamihara replied, "I will not join Uchiha, nor will I join Hyuga. No one can do anything to me." "Oh, you underestimated the darkness of Konoha." Uchiha Izuna sneered. Ishigamihara said, "No, I know the darkness of Konoha better than you." As he spoke, the battlefield appeared in front of him. All he could see was a sea of corpses. There were people fighting in the distance. The entire battlefield stretched for hundreds of meters. Ninjutsu were launched everywhere, and there were ninjas' physical and sword skills fighting. It was like a meat grinder. People fell down or died every moment. Taking a deep breath, Ishigamihara swept his eyes and saw through the situation on the scene almost instantly. The next moment, his figure disappeared from the spot and appeared in front of a fallen Konoha ninja, and in front of him, a Sand Village puppeteer was controlling a puppet and rushing over. Ishigamihara made seals with his hands, like an afterimage, and completed the seals in almost an instant. Fire style. Great Fire Annihilation. Great Fire Extinguishing and Great Fire Destruction are fire ninjutsu of the same level, and are the more powerful ones among fire ninjutsu, but they are only B level. Their power is only performed by Uchiha Madara in the original plot. Destruction is vertical, and destruction is horizontal. These two techniques are derived from the loss formation, which is a kind of battle formation concept, implying vertical and horizontal. And the destruction is actually a straight line, meaning a sharp arrow. So the fire ninjutsu of Great Fire Extinguishing actually starts with the caster, and casts a strong tongue of fire from a certain point in front, like a sharp arrow. To be honest, the Great Fire Extinguishing technique is similar to the water-style water-cutting wave, but it cannot achieve the super strong cutting force like the water-cutting wave. Of course, this technique does not emphasize this point. After all, in fire ninjutsu, fire itself has lethality. And this technique was performed by Ishigamihara, and the effect is definitely incomparable to ordinary people. Ha! With a whistling sound, a tongue of fire sprayed out from Ishigamihara's mouth, like a fire dragon, and attacked the sand ninja in front. The latter didn't even have time to react, and was engulfed by the tongue of fire in an instant, along with the puppet. However, the tongue of fire did not slow down, and went straight to the crowd of sand ninja behind. Whoosh! The intense heat burned the air, and the tongue of fire shot more than 30 meters before falling to the ground, and then there was a burst of explosion, and the tongue of fire instantly turned into a sea of fire. In this instant, I don't know how many people from Sand Ninja were engulfed. Ah! A shrill howl was heard, and it was those Sand Village ninjas who didn't have time to react, and were instantly drowned by the flames. Among the people on the Sand Village side, there was now a huge sea of fire with a diameter of 30 or 40 meters. The flames were burning fiercely, causing the surrounding air to distort. It was no wonder that the Sand Village side didn't have time to react. It was really because Ishigamihara's timing of entering and attacking was too critical. He had completely targeted the area where only Sand Village people gathered, and there were no Konoha ninjas, so he deserved to be hit like this. The Konoha ninja who was rescued by Ishigamihara was looking at this scene in astonishment. It was hard to imagine that such a huge amount of chakra was contained in the body of Ishigamihara, a young man. The power displayed by AB-level fire escape ninjutsu at this moment was probably more powerful than the power of an ordinary A-level ninjutsu, which made the Konoha ninja swallow his saliva uncontrollably. With just this one technique, Ishigamihara could be said to have instantly changed the situation on the battlefield at this moment. "Can you still move?" Ishigamihara asked without turning his head. The man behind him came to his senses and nodded quickly. "I'm fine." Upon hearing this, Ishigamihara no longer paid attention and cast his sights further ahead. There, a white-haired figure was fiercely counter-attacking under the siege of several people. No, to be precise, the people besieging that person were not living people, but puppets, but these puppets were more flexible than normal people. Behind the puppets, a middle-aged woman had a solemn expression, and her 10 fingers on both hands were flicking repeatedly. She was obviously the controller of those puppets. The 10 Kinmatsu. This answer popped up in his heart. Uchiha Izuna said in his mind, "Is this the puppeteer? Interesting." As for puppeteers, Uchiha Izuna had naturally learned about them through Ishigamihara these days. He knew that this was a special ninja tool created by the Sand Village, which was considered a development of ninja methods. Naturally, when Uchiha Izuna looked at puppets, he would first put them into battle. At this time, it was rare for those puppets to receive an interesting comment from Uchiha Izuna. At least the puppets controlled by the man and woman before did not attract much attention from Uchiha Izuna. The flames in the field instantly attracted the attention of the middle-aged woman, especially when she saw that the Sand Village had lost at least 20 combat forces at once, and her face immediately showed anger. 3 treasures sucked and collapsed. The middle-aged woman shouted softly, and then saw 3 puppets standing in a triangular shape, forming a special triangular formation in front of them in an instant, followed by an extremely strong swallowing force, acting on the white-haired young man. The 2 people were naturally Chiyo and Hitaki Sakumo. Facing this sudden swallowing force, Hitaki Sakumo's reaction was very simple. He did not resist, but went along with the suction force. His body turned in the air, and the short blade rose and fell, drawing a gorgeous blade light. The blade light was like a chain, slashing directly at the gap in front of the 3 puppets, stirring the air, and in an incredible way, with a precise and clever force, causing the swallowing force to vibrate. And it was this little vibration that gave Hitaki Sakumo an opportunity. When he landed, he touched his toes and stabbed straight forward like lightning. Another flash of cold light, and the 3 puppets stacked in a triangular shape were broken in the middle by Hitaki Sakumo. If Chiyo had not controlled the 3 puppets to dodge at the critical moment, it would be hard to say. At least 2 of the puppets will be destroyed on the spot. Ishigamihara watched intently. In his sight, every movement and every swing of Hitaki Sakumo revealed a unique beauty. Its rhythm. Ishigamihara's mouth curled up. Sure enough, for a true strong man, whether it is physical skills, swordsmanship, or the use of ninjutsu, the most important thing is always rhythm. Ishigamihara has his own fighting rhythm, which is dangerous and fierce, and the skill is like a show of skill. It is mostly influenced by the Uchiha style, and it is mixed with the fighting essence of the Senju and Uzumaki clans. This is the fighting rhythm that belongs to Ishigamihara. The fighting rhythm of Hitaki Sakumo highlights a sense of speed. He always beats the fast with the slow at an unexpected moment, or attacks with the fast when it is impossible. This goes back and forth, and the enemy will inevitably be exhausted. Over time, the battle rhythm will be perfectly controlled by Hitaki Sakumo, until the opponent is killed by him in the cage set by Hitaki Sakumo. "How is it?" Ishigamihara asked, and this question was naturally addressed to Uchiha Izuna. "Interesting guy, worthy of being the Hitaki family. This family that has left the samurai class does have some merits in swordsmanship, not inferior to the Uchiha. It's time for me to go up too." Ishigamihara smiled and nodded, then he flashed and went straight into the battlefield and found an opponent. Similarly, Ishigamihara did not use ninjutsu this time, but fought with the short blade in his hand. In front, a middle-aged man with long eyebrows had noticed him, and frowned after seeing his eyes. Sharingan, and Byakugan. While he was talking, he flicked his 10 fingers, and a puppet suddenly jumped out from the ground under Ishigamihara's feet, and a slender sword pierced Ishigamihara's chest from its hand. At the same time, another 4 puppets surrounded Ishigamihara from the front, back, left, and right. Ishigamihara knew the man in front of him, although it was the first time he had seen him, but with the long eyebrows and Chiyo present, the man in front of him must be Chiyo's younger brother Ebizo. This man is also one of the most powerful puppeteers in Sunagaku. It is hard to say who is stronger than his sister Chiyo, but it is certain that he is not a weaker one. The moment Ishigamihara appeared, Ebizo had already laid a net for him, and even when the puppet underground was hiding was a little unexpected. But this is only for ordinary people. For fashion, the puppet hiding underground has been seen through by him at a glance. The white eyes in the left eye are not for show. Although fighting under the vision of the white eyes is a bit unfamiliar, the strong self-control still allows Ishigamihara to master this feeling almost instantly. At this moment, when the crisis came, Ishigamihara's response was very simple. He just swung the knife lightly, and at the same time turned his body, and the short blade hit the sharp blade that attacked. The turned body naturally avoided the puppet's strong attack, which can be said to be a hair's breadth. At the same time, the other 4 puppets had already approached, all in human form. Some of them flipped their arms to reveal blades, some had their chests open and full of spikes, some had 4 arms, and the last one looked ordinary. Ishigamihara swung the short blade in his hand again, easily blocking the blade of a puppet. At the same time, he jumped up slightly, his body flew into the air, twisted his body in midair, and stepped out with one foot, stepping directly on the head of the puppet with an open chest. Taking this opportunity, Ishigamihara jumped out of the encirclement directly, and at the same time, he flipped the short blade in his hand and chopped it down towards the empty space. Crack, crack, crack. The 4 puppets actually lost control at the same time and fell directly to the ground. How could it be? Is it a chakra metal ninja tool? Ibizuru's face was full of surprise. Ishigamihara's sword just now actually directly cut off the chakra line he used to control the puppet. Ishigamihara just raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and did not answer. He stepped on the ground and rushed out. The short blade in his hand actually had a bit of origin. It was one of the dowries of Uzumaki Mito back then. In addition, there were many other valuable things, but Ishigamihara did not take those things and left them to Uzumaki Kushina, and he only took this short sword. The short sword is indeed mixed with chakra metal. In addition to being hard, it also has good chakra conductivity and is priceless. It is natural to cut off the chakra line with it. Although Ibizuru was shocked, he was not panicked at all. While he was surprised, he had already completed a ninjutsu seal. Wind style. Chaotic wind kill. He opened his mouth and spit out a sharp breath, like a long rope. As Ebiza shook his head, the sharp breath twisted and directly blocked Ishigamihara's momentum. Seeing this, Ishigamihara slashed with the short blade in his hand, each time fighting at the weak point of the sharp breath. After only 3 swings, he had broken through the blockade. At this time, Ebiza had already completed the reconnection of the chakra line. The wind-style ninjutsu just now was just a feint. He knew very well that if it was just a ninjutsu, it would definitely not do anything to Ishigamihara. Ninja technique. 4 pillars breaking the prison. Crack, crack, crack. The 4 puppets started to move again, holding hands with each other, and then turning. The 2 puppets in the middle used the centrifugal force of the rotation to throw the other 2 puppets out, and they landed not far away on the other side of Ishigamihara. In this way, the 4 puppets once again completed the encirclement of Ishigamihara. The next moment, the 4 puppets all clapped their hands, and with each of them as a starting point, the chakra barrier rose up, and in an instant they completed the combination and closure, forming an enclosed chakra cage. As the light blue chakra flowed, dense black lines appeared on the barrier. Obviously, this was a sealing technique, and the sealing technique had been completed at this time. But what surprised Ebizo was that Ishigamihara, who was in the middle of it, did not show any change in expression, and even observed the seals around him with interest. Ibizuru didn't give Ishigamihara much time. He shouted softly, and flames rose from the barrier of the sealing technique almost instantly, engulfing Ishigamihara's figure. Until this moment, Ibizuru relaxed a little. Obviously, in his opinion, if the person was trapped by this sealing technique, it would be impossible for him to escape. In addition, with flames as a means of attack, the person inside would definitely be burned to ashes. Very capable. This sealing technique is quite interesting. Ishigamihara's voice suddenly sounded from the side, and Ibizuru's face suddenly changed. Without thinking, he turned back, and when he stopped, he saw Ishigamihara standing not far from his original position, looking at the sealing technique with flames burning inside with great interest. How could it be? Ebisa's eyes widened, and he couldn't help asking, how could you escape without making any noise? How did you do it? This scene was obviously beyond common sense. Even a famous strong man like Ebisa in Sand Village couldn't figure it out at this time. Ishigamihara just smiled, and naturally didn't tell him that this was the ability of the Sharingan. Utoki God could transfer himself. He just switched with a piece of stone at his current position. It was that simple. It must be said that Utoki God's ability is indeed very useful, especially on the battlefield. Ebisa naturally wouldn't wait for Ishigamihara to give an answer. In fact, while he was talking, he had already completed the seal for the second time. But at the next moment when he was about to launch the ninjutsu, Ebisa's body was a general. Slightly lowering his head, he saw that there were fine black lines on his body that appeared at some point, and they were climbing up rapidly until they spread to the chest. Is it really the time? At this moment, Ibizuru was only shocked. Ishigamihara smiled slightly. It can be seen that you are very good at sealing techniques. No, I'm sorry, but I also have some talent in sealing techniques. As he spoke, Ishigamihara raised two fingers and raised his eyebrows, and Ibizao fell to the ground stiffly. If it was a head-on battle, Ishigamihara might have to work hard to defeat Ibizao in his prime. But it was not difficult for Ishigamihara to end the battle with sealing techniques by surprise. The fact that he could do this only showed that Ibizao was careless, and it was also due to Ishigamihara's lack of information. Ishigamihara stepped forward, raised the short blade in his hand slightly, and was about to end Ibizao's life. He would naturally not be merciful to his enemies. Get out of my way. At this moment, a loud shout came from behind, and at the same time, there was the unique clicking sound of the puppets. Ishigamihara disappeared from the spot in an instant, and saw two puppets pick up Ebizo and run away directly. Turning to look at Hitaki Tsukumo, he saw that the battle over there had ended at some point, and the two puppets were the Chikamatsu 10 people controlled by Chiyo. A man appeared beside Ishigamihara. He first looked at Ishigamihara in surprise, and then turned his gaze to the two people who had escaped. Good boy, you are really amazing. The man who came was Hitaki Tsukumo, and he was holding a broken arm in his hand. The wound of the broken arm was still oozing blood. Needless to say, it was clear who it belonged to. Awesome. Ishigamihara looked at the broken arm and couldn't help but admire it. You are not bad either. Hitaki Tsukumo smiled. Ishigamihara also smiled, but he raised two fingers and then shouted softly. Ah! Suddenly, a shrill scream was heard from afar. The sand village that could be seen with the naked eye had begun to shrink in one direction, and the scream was coming from that direction. Hitaki Tsukumo was surprised and couldn't help but look at Ishigamihara. Ishigamihara smiled and said, Don't be surprised. I left a backup plan in the sealing technique on that guy. Although I can't kill him, I think I can still cut off one of his arms. Ha ha ha. Hitaki Tsukumo laughed. In this way, the brother and sister will both become one-armed. He patted Ishigamihara on the shoulder, and then said meaningfully, If you need any help, just ask. If it weren't for you this time, I would have suffered heavy losses. After speaking, without waiting for Ishigamihara to reply, he disappeared in an instant and chased after the sand village. Since they are here, it is naturally not easy to leave. Hitaki Tsukumo will not miss such a good opportunity. It is also a good thing for Konoha to keep more enemies. Ishigamihara naturally understood what Hitaki Tsukumo meant. With the corners of his mouth raised, he chased after him without any nonsense. Now that Ishigamihara has opened his Sharingan and has the two abilities of Ashikami and Ashikami, his battlefield survivability has been greatly improved, and his means of attack are even more bizarre and changeable. It is easy for him to gain military exploits on the battlefield. Konoha naturally has a military exploits system, and killing enemies can be converted into tasks of various levels. It can be exchanged for mission rewards or learning new ninjutsu, which is also flexible. Ishigamihara will definitely not give up such an opportunity. For him, new knowledge is never too much. Similarly, doing this has another benefit for Ishigamihara. It can improve his status and position in Konoha. When he becomes the hero of Konoha, I think the expressions of the Hyuga and Uchiha groups will be very interesting. At this moment on the battlefield, the Sand Village has already been defeated. They fought and retreated, and were soon chased by Konoha for more than 10 miles and almost collapsed. If it weren't for the subsequent reinforcements from the Sand Village, this batch of attacking Sand Village would have been wiped out here. Ishigamihara became famous, and in the subsequent pursuit in the battle, he single-handedly killed 4 Jonins and 17 Chunins from the Sand Village. Genin would not participate in this battlefield that was like a meat grinder, so Ishigamihara did not kill any Genin this time. But the real credit of Ishigamihara this time was that he blocked the Sand Village's surprise attack in the camp by himself. Although he didn't completely annihilate the attacking team, it was almost the same. After all, there were 2 elite Jonins in the attacking team, and they all died at the hands of Ishigamihara. In this way, Ishigamihara killed at least 6 Jonins from the Sand Village in one battle. This efficiency of killing the enemy is even far beyond that of Hitaki Tsukumo. After all, it is not in this kind of battle that Hitaki Tsukumo can truly demonstrate his battlefield ability, type battlefield but surprise attacks and assassinations. So in this way, in normal battles, the number of enemies who died at the hands of Hitaki Tsukumo was not as many as Ishigamihara, and he mostly played the role of restraining the enemy's masters. Therefore, Ishigamihara became famous, and coupled with his extraordinary handsome face, everyone remembered him all of a sudden. On Orochimaru's side, he designed an assassination when the Tsunagaku side evacuated, but unfortunately, under the desperate protection of the Tsunagaku side, the Chiyo siblings still escaped. It can only be said that the Tsunagaku side is indeed powerful at this stage, otherwise they would not have the confidence to launch a surprise attack. Orochimaru did not care about a failure, but congratulated Ishigamihara because of his fame. Congratulations, Hara-kun, it seems that from now on, you need to get familiar with your new identity, the hero of Konoha. In the camp command tent, Orochimaru licked his lips with an obvious smile. Those present were all high-ranking officials of the camp, especially many of them had seen the difference in Ishigamihara's eyes. Even though Ishigamihara's eyes have now returned to their original state, they still cast curious glances at him. Everyone wanted to know why Ishigamihara had 2 eye techniques bloodline at the same time, one Byakugan and one Sharingan. Just thinking about this was enough to surprise people. Especially when everyone could think of this, when this kind of thing was passed back, no. When this kind of thing spread on the battlefield, whether it was the Hyuga as for the Uchiha clan, they will probably not give up digging out the secrets from Ishigamihara. When that time comes, what will the young man in front of him do? But at this moment, Ishigamihara was standing leisurely, just beside Orochimaru, with Naoki next to him, looking nonchalant. He acted as if he didn't know what was going to happen next, and seemed very calm. Naoki was a little nervous, and couldn't help but tug at Ishigamihara's sleeve, wanting to say something, but didn't know how to start. Ishigamihara nodded slightly to him, and then said, "Thank you, Lord Orochimaru, I don't care about these." Then he said to Hitaki Tsukumo, "Lord Tsukumo, I need to exchange this military exploit for mission settlement." "Okay, your gains from this battle can be exchanged for 9S level tasks. I will record them for you." "Yes, thank you," Shang Shu asked. "What do you want to use these task settlements for?" Ishigamihara did not hide it and said directly, "In exchange for the opportunity to read the sealed book." Clearly understood, and then many people's hearts moved. Is this the preparation for dealing with Hinata and Uchiha? Many people thought so in their hearts. The situation on the battlefield is ever-changing. Ishigamihara is still a genin, so after dealing with his affairs, he was arranged to rest because they came all the way here. Ishigamihara didn't feel very tired, but he still lay on the floor to empty himself. Somehow, he felt a little sleepy. Ishigamihara didn't resist the sleepiness and fell asleep. This time the sleepiness was very strange, but it made Ishigamihara feel inexplicably familiar, because he was dreaming again, still that special starry sky, and still brought something back from there in a trance, but this time Ishigamihara woke up in the second half of the night, and then he heard the angry voice of Uchiha Izuna in his mind. "You kid, you actually brought this guy back from the underworld." At the same time, another voice rang out, "Ahaha, it's Izuna, long time no see. I'm sorry that Tobirama killed you. After all, as you know, at that time, our Senju and your Uchiha were still hostile." "Shut up, Senju Hashirama. You are not allowed to mention that name. Uchiha Izuna roared. If we were to say who Uchiha Izuna is most at odds with, that person would definitely be Senju Tobirama. After all, king versus king, general versus general, Hashirama versus Ban, Tobirama versus Izuna, the two can almost be said to be old enemies. Especially since Uchiha Izuna was the defeated party, it was obviously impossible to expect him to have a good impression of Senju. Now in front of him, Ishigamihara actually brought back the soul of Hashirama Senju quietly and lived with him. How could Uchiha Izuna accept this? Ishigamihara did not speak, but stood up silently without affecting the others in the tent. After quietly leaving the tent, he came to an unmanned corner of the camp. At this time, there was a faint chakra fluctuation on Ishigamihara's body. This chakra fluctuation belonged to Uchiha Izuna. The latter would naturally have chakra movements when he was emotionally excited, and Ishigamihara did not restrict this. In this way, Ishigamihara's eyes once again showed the Byakugan and Sharingan. The former was fine, but the latter inexplicably made Ishigamihara feel some changes. This change was very subtle, but it really existed, as if something had been added to the kaleidoscope, making it feel like it was slowly rising. Inexplicably, the corners of Ishigamihara's mouth curled up. He was waiting for a transformation. Hey, Izuna-kun, don't be so angry. We are all dead, and the past hatred should be resolved. Senju Hashirama hurriedly comforted him. But this kind of comfort was doomed to be useless. Uchiha Izuna didn't listen at all and continued to speak unilaterally. Calm down, Senju Hashirama shouted softly, and the next moment, Ishigamihara felt that he had an extra chakra. This chakra was as powerful as the abyss and the sea, but it flashed away, as if it had never appeared, but it gave Ishigamihara the feeling that a sea had just pressed down on him. At the same time, Ishigamihara felt that there was something extra in him, as if there was a change in his body, but this change was extremely subtle and inexplicable. This was the part that Ishigamihara could not figure out for the time being, and the aspect that Ishigamihara could understand was the change in his eyes. To be precise, it was the change in the Sharingan. After that chakra appeared, Ishigamihara felt that his right eye suddenly became sore, and he was extremely shocked. The flower tube appeared involuntarily, and the pattern inside it began to rotate rapidly. Faintly, the original calyx-shaped three-pointed blade pattern had an arc connecting each other. The changes did not stop there. The slight damage to the vision caused by the use of the Mangekyo ability in the previous battle was also fully restored at this moment. It was even as if a piece of gauze was torn in front of the eyes, and the vision was clearer than before. Ishigamihara could no longer suppress the smile on his face. He said to himself, as expected, it is just as he thought. The muscle activation effect appeared again. The blood belonging to the Senju clan in the body has undergone a qualitative change after being stimulated by the chakra. Also stimulated by this chakra, Uchiha Izuna finally calmed down a little, but his calmness was limited. Where is that guy Senju Tobirama? Why is it you? Let him out. Ah, this. I can't do this. I don't know why I am in this boy's body. By the way, do you know the reason, Izuna-kun? HMPH. Uchiha Izuna snorted coldly. His anger subsided a little, and he said, "You ask this kid, he is so mysterious, I can't explain it." It seems that Senju Hashirama is still very intimidating. Even someone as proud as Uchiha Izuna had to calm down reluctantly under the movement of his chakra. Is that so? Senju Hashirama focused his attention on Ishigamihara and asked, "Young man, what's your name?" "Mr. Shodai, my name is Ishigamihara. Is your last name Ishigami? Who is Ishigami Tatsuya to you?" Senju Hashirama asked again. Ishigamihara did not hide it and answered directly, "That is my grandfather." "I see. I didn't expect you to be from the Ishigami family. Your family has contributed a lot to the establishment of Konoha. Thank you for your affirmation. If my grandfather and his family knew you said this, they would definitely be very happy." "Are your grandfather and his family still alive?" Ishigamihara shook his head. "Unfortunately, my grandfather also passed away not long after you, the first generation, passed away." "I see, sorry." Ishigamihara smiled. "No need to be like that, this has nothing to do with you." "Uchiha." Izuna said indignantly, "Brat, why do you call him honorifics?" Ishigamihara said, "Because he is the Hokage." Ah ha ha ha. Senju Hashirama's laughter was a little awkward, but he still said, although I don't know why I appeared in your body, I still want to apologize to you. I'm sorry to trouble you. I will return to the Pure Land now, and I will take this guy with me. Uchiha Izuna was going crazy when he heard this, and he cursed, you fool, don't impose your will on me. Senju Hashirama's voice calmed down, and he said, Izuna-kun, you and I are both dead. We shouldn't appear here, let alone have the intention of affecting the present world. This is not good. Uchiha Izuna seemed to know that Senju Hashirama's temperament was like this, and suddenly changed the subject and said, you don't know yet, this kid has multiple bloodlines, and now he has opened his Byakugan and Sharingan. Haha, don't tell me you don't know what this means. This kid will not be in a good situation next. Obviously, Uchiha Izuna wanted to use this method to tell Senju Hashirama that he didn't want to leave now. Ishigami Hara knew that Uchiha Izuna could leave his body at any time. After all, the soul can be ascension. Ishigami Hara did not force or restrict him. If he wanted to leave, Uchiha Izuna could do it naturally. But it was obvious that Uchiha Izuna had no such plan for the time being. He wanted to see how far Ishigami Hara could go next and what level of life he could achieve in the future. People are always curious. Senju Hashirama obviously didn't expect this to happen and looked quite surprised. Is that true? He asked. Ishigami Hara nodded. Indeed. Senju Hashirama's voice also had a strange tone. Did the Ishigami family's vision really come true in you, young man? Ishigami Hara kept his smile on his face and could only say, I think so. Ahahaha, young man, you are so amazing. Ishigami Hara said in a deep voice. Shodai-sama, I also have the blood of the Senju clan. After your chakra appeared just now, my body seems to have some special changes. Special changes? Senju Hashirama paused, and then immediately became interested. Is it wood release? I don't know, Ishigami Hara said. Senju Hashirama immediately said. Come on, try to make a seal, first like this, then like this. Ishigami Hara listened carefully and tried it immediately. He made a sea seal, then a yin seal, and then 6 seals, a total of 8 seals. Wood release. 4 seasons tree. Kakaka. In front of Ishigami Hara, the ground immediately had tender seedlings breaking through the soil, and then growing rapidly. Almost in the blink of an eye, it grew into a tree that one person could hug. This. Senju Hashirama looked surprised. How is this possible? Uchiha Izuna was incredulous. Uchiha Izuna's mood at this moment was very complicated, especially the scene in front of him gave him too much shock. What is wood release? It is a counterattack. No. It is the power that can crush Uchiha Mangekyo. In Uchiha Izuna's impression, wood release represents absolute power. But now this kind of power has been mastered by this kid, and it was mastered silently. How can he stay calm? Young man, you are really a genius. I didn't expect that you can even master wood release, a power that not even the Senju clan has truly mastered. These words were said by Hashirama Senju, and they are indeed true. Throughout the entire history of the Senju clan, there is only one member like him who has mastered the power of wood release. And now wood release has appeared on an outsider, and Hashirama Senju has enough reasons to marvel at this miracle. Yes, it is a miracle. Precisely because Hashirama Senju is the master of wood release, he knows how difficult it is to master this bloodline. He has taught others wood release more than once, but no one who can truly learn it has ever appeared, including members of the Senju clan, and even more so, Hashirama Senju's closest people. You are too kind. Ishigami Hara showed his joy, looking at the thick tree in front of him, with an obvious smile on his face. The joy was real, but in fact, Ishigami Hara's heart was very calm. In fact, Ishigami Hara had a premonition before. After bringing back the soul of Hashirama Senju, he had a premonition that he might master wood release. Now it seems that this idea has come true. In this way, doesn't it mean that any bloodline he has may be awakened in the future? However, if this method of awakening bloodline needs to be activated based on other chakras, then Ishigami Hara feels that there will be more or less some problems. Apart from anything else, just letting so many dead people possess it is not an easy thing for Ishigami Hara to accept. Bloodlines like wood release and Sharingan are more or less acceptable, but if it is ice release, boiling release and other bloodlines, it is more or less unnecessary. It's not that these bloodlines are not strong, but Ishigamihara has now vaguely found a way to open these bloodlines. Whether it can be successful now is still unknown, but after awakening wood release, Ishigamihara's feeling has become stronger. Little boy, you now have both the Sharingan and wood release. You are no longer a weakling in the entire ninja world. Why do you still have to stick to Konoha? Uchiha Izuna said in a low voice. Senju Hashirama immediately dissuaded him, don't say that, Izuna-kun. Konoha was established by Madara and the Uchiha clan also made great efforts. Only the existence of the village can bring peace to the ninja world. Peace, he. Uchiha Izuna sneered and said mercilessly. You don't know yet, since your death, the ninja world has already experienced 2 wars, each of which affected a wide range of people. Each time, the casualties were in the hundreds of thousands. Is this the peace you want? What? Senju Hashirama obviously didn't expect this, and was a little bit unbelievable. How could this happen? Ishigamihara said at the right time. The first generation founded the village and united everyone's strength with the village as the center. The starting point is good, but you ignored the human heart. Haha, this kid sees things very clearly. That's right, people are greedy. You can suppress the ninja world with your strength, but after your death, Konoha lacks this confidence, and the outbreak of war is inevitable. As he said this, Uchiha Izuna paused, revealing a sense of gloating. What's more, you built the village and united many people, but you also dragged more people into the flames of war. My eldest brother left the village because he saw this, so you are not as good as my eldest brother. After all, he is still a brother Khan, so Uchiha Izuna naturally wants to prove that Uchiha Madara is right. No, there is nothing wrong with building a village. It is wrong that people cannot truly communicate with each other openly. All rectification can be eliminated through communication. Senju Hashirama naturally has his own persistence and will not be led astray by Uchiha Izuna's words. He immediately changed the subject and said to Ishigamihara, Young man, I once ended the chaos of the Warring States period with Madara. You now have the power of wood release and Sharingan. If possible, please use this power to stop the war. Ishigamihara was silent, neither agreeing nor refusing, as if he was thinking. Kid, only power can bring peace, this guy is right. Uchiha Izuna said. Hey, that's not what I meant. Senju Hashirama quickly denied it, and then said, Power cannot be used in war, young man, you should use this power to make everyone stop the war, use this power to communicate with everyone and thus eliminate the war. Humph, pretending to be nice. Uchiha Izuna naturally disagreed with what Hashirama Senju said. Seeing that the two were still arguing, Ishigami Principal said, I don't like war either, but compared to communication, I think that fear is the best way to stop a war. Did you hear that? Ha 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 ha. Uchiha Izuna suddenly burst into laughter when he heard that. Young man, you can't let the appearance of power fool you. Senju Hashirama naturally didn't want to see Ishigamihara indulge in the false power, which made him a little uneasy. Don't worry, Master Shodai, I won't indulge in power. I have my own pursuits. Ishigamihara said this with great confidence. As a time traveler, he naturally knew what true peace was like. I will use my own methods to end the war and bring peace to the ninja world. Okay, young man, come on. As he spoke, Hashirama Senju suddenly released chakra, and then Ishigamihara's eyes blurred, and he felt that he had come to a special place. In front of him was a space as gorgeous as the starry sky. Although Ishigamihara was curious, he was not surprised, because he knew that this was where the soul existed, and it was okay to call it the soul space. There were 2 people standing in front of him, one was a man in red plate armor with long black hair. The other was dressed in black with his hands on his chest. The 2 were Hashirama Senju and Uchiha Izuna. The former stretched out his hand and clenched his fist, grinning, I will teach you all the wood release, come and bump fists. As early as before the Warring States period, the greatest function of chakra when it appeared was to connect the hearts of people. And fist bumping is the best way to communicate chakra, which Ishigamihara naturally knew. Okay, Ishigamihara stretched out his hand and clenched his fist, bumping it with Hashirama Senju's fist. Humph, kid, there's mine too. Uchiha Izuna also stretched out his hand while speaking. Chapter 51. Ishigamihara could understand what Hashirama Senju was thinking. Uchiha Izuna did this because she didn't want to be outdone by Hashirama Senju. Ishigamihara didn't even need to think about it to understand that in Uchiha Izuna's opinion, no place could be outdone by Hashirama Senju. The two fists touched, the chakras intersected, and the experience of using wood release that belonged to Hashirama Senju quickly entered Ishigamihara's mind. For ordinary people, there might be a familiarity process, knowing and understanding are two concepts. But for Ishigamihara, this is different. He has already learned to level 4, and he has understood the essence and key points in almost an instant. Let's put it this way, if Ishigamihara were to perform wood release now, maybe because of the amount of chakra, there would be a gap with Hashirama Senju's wood release, but in terms of proficiency or the completion of the technique, it would definitely not be worse than Hashirama Senju. Even if Ishigamihara is given time, he will do better than Hashirama Senju, and Ishigamihara has sufficient confidence in this. Without being urged by Uchiha Izuna, after fist bumping with Hashirama Senju, Ishigamihara then completed the fist bump with Uchiha Izuna. Unlike the knowledge of wood release obtained from Hashirama Senju, what he obtained from Uchiha Izuna was completely knowledge of the Sharingan. It included various eye techniques from 1 to 3 Magatama, and even many abilities and techniques of the Mangekyo. The most critical of these was Uchiha Izuna's experience in using Susanoo. All the knowledge, from simple to complex, could be called an encyclopedia of the Sharingan. Before, Ishigamihara had been verbally taught all kinds of fire release ninjutsu, as well as the various ninjutsu, taijutsu, and swordsmanship of the Uchiha school. If the knowledge of the Sharingan he obtained this time was added, Ishigamihara estimated that Uchiha Izuna had basically been emptied out by him. Thank you very much. No matter what Uchiha Izuna's purpose was, the beneficiary was Ishigamihara, and he naturally would not deny this and admit that the help given by the other party was sometimes very necessary. Sure enough, after Ishigamihara thanked him, Uchiha Izuna just crossed his arms and snorted, and turned his head to the side. Ahaha. Senju Hashirama felt the atmosphere was a little awkward, scratched his head and grinned. Well, use this power well, young man, I should leave. Uchiha Izuna turned his head in surprise, looking very surprised. You really don't plan to stay? Senju Hashirama restrained his smile, nodded seriously and said, I am the dead, I should not be too involved with this place. You don't care about the situation in the ninja world. Konoha is your life's work. Uchiha Izuna asked again. Haha, the village is always under the charge of the current Hokage. Looking at Ishigamihara, he said, besides, there is this young man. I can feel the kindness in his heart. He will bring peace to the ninja world. Uchiha Izuna's face darkened when he heard this. He also turned his head to look at Ishigamihara, looked at him carefully, and finally sneered. Kind. Shaking his head, Uchiha Izuna said, why do I see indifference in him? Huh. Senju Hashirama scratched his head again and answered subconsciously, it may be that your eyesight is not good. After all, you know that if you use the Mangekyo too much, you will become blind. Senju Hashirama, you fool. Uchiha Izuna was immediately angry. Ahahaha, just kidding, don't be so serious. Senju Hashirama smiled foolishly and patted Uchiha Izuna's shoulder, but the latter avoided him and turned his head to the side, completely ignoring him. Ahem. Hashirama Senju coughed dryly, and then he turned serious again and said to Ishigamihara, young man, I hope you can use this power to bring peace to the ninja world. It seemed that he was really ready to leave. Ishigamihara's expression did not change, but his tone was a little serious when he asked, aren't you going back to the village to take a look, Showtime? Hashirama Senju shook his head. No, it will only add to my troubles, so, goodbye, young man. After saying this, Hashirama Senju didn't care about Uchiha Izuna, his figure turned into a faint light, and then gradually disappeared, until he finally disappeared. Tisk, this guy is quite straightforward. Uchiha Izuna snorted, obviously not expecting Senju Hashirama to be so decisive, but said, this guy is still the same as before, what a fool. As he said that, he sneered at Ishigamihara, don't expect me to leave like this, I'll watch you, kid. Ishigamihara nodded, not feeling very surprised. Uchiha Izuna obviously had his own demands. As for what these demands were, Ishigamihara could roughly guess. It was nothing more than related to the Uchiha clan. Now the situation of the Uchiha in the village has begun to show signs, and even Uchiha Izuna has noticed that something is wrong. Unlike Uchiha Madara, who was able to abandon the Uchiha clan for his ideals, Uchiha Izuna can be said to be a true Uchiha supremacist. So it would be fine if he died, and now that there is a chance for his soul to return, he naturally wants to seek something for the Uchiha. It doesn't matter. As long as it doesn't affect me, I won't drive you away. The way Ishigamihara and Uchiha Izuna get along is very special. There is no such thing as politeness, and there is no bond. Uchiha Izuna is arrogant, but he doesn't know that Ishigamihara is even more arrogant than him, so the daily interactions between the two of them are always weird. But they are both very used to this kind of relationship. After Ishigamihara finished speaking, he stopped talking nonsense with Uchiha Izuna, nodded slightly, and his mind left this space. After Ishigamihara left, Uchiha Izuna's expression changed from indifference to deep, and he talked to himself at the same time. This guy, Hashirama, has made a mistake this time. He has a kind of indifference towards everything as if he were looking at a stone. How can such a person be kind? Haha, I am looking forward to the future of this kid. The ninja world will definitely become more interesting. There have been a lot of gossips in the Konoha camp recently, and the most widely spread one is about Ishigamihara, which has even overshadowed the news that Rope Tree killed a sand village Chunin alone. The reason is simple, just because Ishigamihara has the Byakugan and Sharingan bloodline, and they exist at the same time. This kind of thing would not be a trivial matter for anyone, especially when there are Hyuga and Uchiha clan ninjas in the camp. It is even more eye-catching. Ishigamihara naturally knows the situation. In fact, it is not only others who are talking about it, even Orochimaru has been looking at him with a strange look in his eyes in recent days. Haru-kun is really unexpected. I didn't expect that a miracle like you would appear in the Ishigami clan. These were Orochimaru's original words, and Orochimaru's slightly curious look was also added. Ishigami Haru could understand Orochimaru's thoughts. Even though Orochimaru at this time had not developed to the level of Snake Uncle in the original plot, his pursuit of ninjutsu was not low at all. The Byakugan and Sharingan, two bloodlines, should not appear in one person no matter how you look at it. But this situation happened, and Ishigami Haru naturally became the focus of everyone's attention. Lord Orochimaru, I don't know the specific situation either. Ishigamihara naturally evaded the question, but he was not worried about what Orochimaru would do to him. Hehe, but you have to be careful. I have heard a lot of rumors in recent days. The ninjas from the Hyuga and Uchiha clans seem to have some ideas about you. Orochimaru said again. Ishigamihara nodded. I have a feeling. Then you should be careful. You can always come to me if anything happens. Yes, Lord Orochimaru. Ishigamihara was naturally aware of what Orochimaru said. Other Konoha ninjas were at most curious, but the Hyuga and Uchiha seemed to be very concerned about Ishigamihara's existence. What they were entangled in was nothing more than that Ishigamihara was an outsider. In other words, now that the Byakugan and Sharingan bloodlines have been leaked, if Ishigamihara grows up, he can even create a ninja clan different from the Hyuga and Uchiha clans by himself. How can the two clans accept this? The people of the two clans came faster than Ishigamihara. It was thought that these two groups needed to report to the Konoha clan before they knew how to deal with it. He was trying to deal with the matter, but he didn't expect that people from the two clans would come together. The 6 people who appeared in front of Ishigamihara were from 2 teams, 3 Hyuga clan members and 3 Uchiha clan members. It was obvious that they had planned to stop Ishigamihara and Naoki when they came back from patrolling outside the camp. Naoki immediately stood in front of Ishigamihara and looked at the 6 people vigilantly. As the grandson of the first generation and a descendant of the Senju clan, Naoki naturally knew the unknown secrets of the village, especially those related to the Uchiha clan. Seeing the 6 people appear at this moment, it was obvious that they were not friendly. Naoki, as a teammate of Ishigamihara, naturally stood up. Seniors, do you have anything to say? At this time, his identity would make the 6 people a little cautious, so they were confident to speak like this. The people of the Hyuga clan looked at Ishigamihara, and the leader said in a deep voice, Hara-kun, can you show your Byakugan? Ishigamihara glanced at the 6 people from the 2 clans, and then patted Naoki's shoulder lightly, stepped past him, and then said, "It's okay to show the Byakugan, Uchiha people, do you want to see it too?" The Uchiha people all had cold faces, or rather, they had stern faces, and their tone was indifferent. "Yes, we need to confirm it." Ishigamihara heard this, with a faint smile on his face, nodded slightly, and without further ado, he directly activated his Byakugan and Sharingan. If you ask if the Sharingan can still activate the 3 Magatama form after opening the Mangekyo, the answer is yes, it just depends on the use of chakra, which is controlled. The Byakugan is more of a semi-dominant inheritance. After the general Hyuga clan members open the Byakugan will basically be fixed. But Ishigamihara is an exception, because he has the Sharingan, and the 2 pupil powers seem to have some special connection. In this way, the Byakugan becomes the same as the Sharingan, and it can be activated when not in use. It can be hidden when in use. When Ishigamihara showed his Byakugan and Sharingan, the expressions of the 6 people changed at the same time. The Hyuga clan members frowned, and the 3 of them couldn't help but activate their Byakugan, with veins bulging on both sides of their eye sockets, staring at Ishigamihara's left eye. The 3 Uchiha people's faces became even colder, and they almost subconsciously activated their Sharingan, revealing 3 pairs of 3 Magatama scarlet eyes. The scene was very quiet for a while. Naoki, who was standing aside, faced these 6 pairs of eyes and inexplicably felt a pressure. He couldn't help but pull Ishigamihara's sleeve. Ishigamihara remained unmoved, and his eyes swept over the 6 people, and his expression returned to calm. "The purity of this Byakugan is so high." A Hyuga person spoke up. The Byakugan also has the ability to see through things, especially the people of the Hyuga clan, who naturally have a way to distinguish the purity of the Byakugan. Ishigamihara only glanced at the 3 people and knew that they were all members of the branch family. Because their Byakugan had defects, their purity naturally could not be compared with Ishigamihara's Byakugan. The gap between the 2 was quite large. As for the 3 Uchiha people, Ishigamihara also didn't care much. There are differences between people, and there are naturally differences between 3 Magatama and 3 Magatama. "When did you open your eyes?" the Uchiha asked. "Is it important?" Ishigamihara asked back. "Answer me," the Uchiha said coldly. In Ishigamihara's mind, Uchiha Izuna couldn't help but say, 3 little 3 Magatama guys, cast an illusion on them to let them know how powerful you are." Hearing this, Ishigamihara almost couldn't maintain his expression and couldn't help asking back, "Are you so harsh to your own people?" "Humph, just let them realize the gap. The Uchiha clan only believes in strength. If you want to solve this matter properly, it is best to convince them." "I see." Ishigamihara naturally knew this, and he was not surprised that Uchiha Izuna said this. However, Ishigamihara did not like the attitude of the Uchiha in front of him. "I am not a member of the Uchiha clan, you have no right to ask me to do anything," Ishigamihara said directly. The Uchiha obviously did not expect Ishigamihara to say this, and a hint of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. "From the moment you opened your Sharingan, you are inseparable from Uchiha. If you don't want to encounter any bad things, answer my questions." Ishigamihara sighed helplessly. "You are really arrogant, Uchiha." While speaking, Ishigamihara stared at the man who spoke, and the 3 Magatama in his eyes turned slightly. The Uchiha who was speaking was a young man in his early 20s. At this age, he could reach the level of 3 Magatama. Even in the Uchiha clan, he could be considered a talent, and he was a talent in the Jonin realm. Like a normal Uchiha, he was naturally proud of his bloodline, and he had a kind of mysterious confidence in the Sharingan. This confidence ran through the family history of the Uchiha, and it had long made him so arrogant. But now, he was destined to pay the price for his arrogance. The moment he met Ishigamihara's eyes, he felt a slight trance in front of him, and almost instantly, he found himself in another world. This was a bloody world, the sky was blood red, and there was a huge Sharingan above, 3 of which were slowly rotating, almost occupying the entire field of vision of this person. Surrounded by the dark earth, the darkness was as dark as ink, and it was extremely deep. Everything looked so weird and ominous. This person was shocked when he came to his senses, because he didn't know when he was being pierced on a cross, his arms stretched out, his legs together, and he couldn't move. How could it be? After reacting, the man was about to burst out his chakra, trying to break through the illusion. But no matter how he struggled, it was doomed to be in vain. Then, he saw the space in front of him slightly distorted, and then a figure emerged. It was none other than Ishigamihara. At this moment, Ishigamihara was still calm, but he had a kunai in his hand. Excuse me, I haven't asked your name yet. What do you want to do? The man was still struggling, and then he was still in disbelief and said angrily, how dare you attack me? I am Uchiha. Then what? Ishigamihara just took a step forward and thrust the kunai in his hand into the man's abdomen. His movements were gentle but firm, and he stabbed the kunai into the flesh little by little, letting the blood flow down. Ah! A scream came out of this man's mouth, mixed with curses. Ishigamihara took a step back, and a kunai appeared in his hand without knowing when. Can you tell me your name? You are the first Uchiha I attacked, I want to remember your name. Ishigamihara asked again, his voice calm. My name is Uchiha Huoshi, remember, I will make you regret it. At this moment, Uchiha Huoshi understood that he was no match for the kid in front of him in terms of pupil power, because no matter how he burst out his chakra, even though he used the unique illusion solution of the Uchiha clan, he still could not break through this layer of illusion. From this moment on, he already knew what he might encounter next. Ishigamihara nodded slightly, and said calmly, Mr. Huoshi, although I don't know the purpose of your visit this time, I think it should not be a good thing. As a member of the village, I need to make you understand one thing. As he spoke, Ishigamihara stepped forward again, stabbed the kunai in his hand into the other side of his lower abdomen, and then retreated amid Uchiha Huoshi's screams. Be polite. Uchiha Huoshi was sweating profusely. The severe pain had almost made him lose his mind, and he could only curse. I'm going to kill you. Ishigamihara calmly raised his hand, still holding a kunai, and then he said, this is the Tsukuyomi space. I think you must have heard of Tsukuyomi, the ultimate illusion of the Uchiha clan. Here, I control your 5 senses, and I am the god here. Of course, this is not the real Tsukuyomi space. Strictly speaking, this is a special illusion space that I transformed based on the Tsukuyomi technique. His tone paused slightly, and Ishigamihara's mouth curled up, and his voice continued. 1 second here is equal to 1 day in the outside world. With my pupil power, it is easy to maintain this illusion, so, please enjoy it. As the voice fell, the third kunai had already pierced into his lower abdomen. Ah! Uchiha Huoshi's screams echoed in the space, but under the gaze of the huge Sharingan in the sky, he had no chance to resist. By the way, I named this technique, Tsukuyomi. Here, you are my slave. I will dominate everything about you and also offend everything about you. Ishigamihara did not lie. This technique is indeed not Tsukuyomi, because Tsukuyomi is more of the ability of the Mangekyo. It is difficult to learn normally because it requires the ultimate Yin-Tun chakra as support to perform Tsukuyomi. In short, it takes a huge amount of pupil power to afford the consumption of Tsukuyomi, not to mention the difficulty of the Tsukuyomi technique itself, which is definitely a forbidden technique. Therefore, the combination of these two has caused the scarcity of Tsukuyomi, which is why it is called the ultimate illusion technique that is circulated among the Uchiha clan. And Ishigamihara's approach is very simple. He does not need the overbearing ability effect of Tsukuyomi. For normal people, Tsukuyomi is not easy to master. If someone can endure the torture for 3 hours, it is already terrible. Like Kakashi in the original plot, enduring it for 72 hours might really cost his life. This is because Kakashi also has a Mangekyo, which has a good resistance to illusions. If it were someone else, he would probably die instantly. Therefore, Ishigamihara only needs to simplify the Tsukuyomi and extract its essence, that is, to cause mental damage to the enemy. As for the time, it only needs to maintain it for a day, which is about 24 hours. Even so, with Ishigamihara's Mangekyo level pupil power, against an Uchiha with 3 Magatama, the result is self-evident. Therefore, please take good care of me in the next 23 hours, 59 minutes and 50 seconds. After that, the 4th kunai pierced into Uchiha Firestone's chest. The screams rang out again, still shrill. Under Ishigamihara's control, Uchiha Firestone could only feel extreme pain, but he was still energetic. No, Uchiha Huoshi was scared. When he met Ishigamihara's calm eyes, he felt that he might die. No, he would definitely die, because there was no respect for life in the other person's eyes. The way he looked at him was as cold as looking at a dead object. Puff. Outside, 1 second later, Uchiha Huoshi's body trembled, his face turned pale and bloodless in an instant, his forehead was covered with cold sweat, and his body was shaking like a sieve. Everyone's attention was on him at this moment, and Uchiha Huoshi fell to his knees with a plop, and began to dry heave with his hands on the ground. He felt so weak, as if he would die at any time. Swish. The other two Uchiha didn't hesitate at all, and directly drew out their kunai, subconsciously blocking in front of Uchiha Huoshi, with extremely vigilant expressions. The three Hyuga retreated quickly, and their expressions were also vigilant. Ishigamihara looked normal, and didn't care about the actions of these people, but asked Uchiha Izuna in his mind, "How is my Tsukuyomi?" Uchiha Izuna watched the whole process. Of course, Ishigamihara deliberately let him see it, so his feelings were clearer than others. At this moment, Uchiha Izuna was a little silent. He knew that Ishigamihara had amazing talent, but he didn't expect him to be so perverted. That's Tsukuyomi, the ability of the awakened Mangekyo, detailed throughout the history of the Uchiha clan. Only 3 or 5 people have awakened this ability. It is precisely because of this that it is even more powerful and precious. But the other party was able to learn this ability directly without relying on external forces, which is beyond the level of cognition. Ishigamihara did not care that he did not get a response from Uchiha Kwanai. He glanced at the 3 Hyuga clan members and then fixed his gaze on Uchiha Huoshi. Uchiha Huoshi, can you calm down now? Or do you need to do it again? The voice was calm and indifferent, as if he was talking about something completely unrelated. Uchiha Huoshi quickly crawled backwards, using his hands and feet. He was in a very embarrassed state, but he did not dare to make a sound. When Shungshu saw this scene, his expression was quite strange, and he could not help asking, "Yuan, what did you do?" "It's nothing, I just let that guy feel my illusion, and now it seems that the effect is very good." The other 2 Uchiha also changed their expressions when they heard it. Uchiha Huoshi was obviously shocked by the illusion, so that he seemed to have seen the most terrifying thing. Others don't know what this means, but how can Uchiha people not understand? Unable to help, the 2 of them gradually turned pale, and a feeling of fear arose spontaneously. There is only one possibility in the Uchiha clan that can make the 3 Magatama Sharingan easily fall into the trap and have such serious consequences. Inexplicably, the 2 thought of something, and after looking at each other, they swallowed their saliva subconsciously, and then drove Uchiha Huoshi, without even daring to leave a word, and quickly retreated. At this moment, the other people present were even more puzzled, especially Nawaki, who was very curious at this time. Hey, why did you run away?" Nawaki wanted to chase after them and ask them clearly, but he still held back. He knew that he couldn't cause trouble at this time, so he just watched from the side. The reactions of the 3 Uchiha people gave the 3 Hyuga people a big shock. The 3 Hyuga people were in a bit of a dilemma. As ninjas, and one of the ninja clans who also practiced eye techniques, if you were to ask which family in the entire ninja world knew the Uchiha the best, there would probably be no one else except the Hyuga. It was precisely because of this that the 3 Hyuga people understood what Ishigamihara's achievement meant, which was an absolute crushing of eye power. In other words, it would not be difficult for the eye power that could crush the 3 Magatama to crush them. At this time, Ishigamihara's sight came over and fell on the 3 of them, which immediately made the 3 of them change color. "What do you want to do?" As if in a stress response, the leading Hyuga spoke immediately. Ishigamihara said calmly, "Fighting with fellow villagers is an act of treason. Although you have the confidence to do so as a bloodline family, I don't like this kind of behavior." The faces of the 3 Hyuga people sank immediately after hearing this. The most worried result appeared. But Ishigamihara said again, "The fault is yours. The Uchiha people have been punished. As for the 3 of you, I won't make it difficult for you. Go back and report that you have been defeated by me." As he spoke, Ishigamihara took a step forward, and the next moment, his figure suddenly disappeared. What? Not good. So fast. The 3 people had different expressions, but their reactions were similar. They all took the starting posture of the Hyuga family's soft fist at the same time, and then faced the appearance of Ishigamihara and began to respond. Ishigamihara did it on purpose. He did not release his strength right away, but intentionally controlled the rhythm and let the three people display what they had learned. In fact, it was just to see how good the Hyuga family's soft fist was. Bang, bang, bang. The field was filled with the muffled sound of fists and feet, and Ishigamihara's figure was seen swaying in the field, like a shadow, and he was so strong that the three people were almost out of breath. Soft boxing technique: 8 trigrams palm. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. 64 palms. The three of them cooperated well and performed a set of soft fist technique Bagua palm together, and it was 64 palms. Each palm was combined with a special chakra property change. This chakra property change was not too intense, but rather very gentle. However, combined with the soft fist technique Bagua palm, it could easily penetrate the opponent's body. In this way, if it hits the enemy's acupuncture points, it can easily penetrate and cut off the chakra circulation lines in the opponent's body, thus achieving the effect of acupuncture. I see. Ishigamihara responded with Konoha steel fist style, and each time he could make the opponent's palm hit the air. Facing the three people's encirclement, he was like a butterfly flying through flowers, and he avoided them every time. At the same time, Ishigamihara's eyes quickly scanned, watching everyone's movements, and almost instantly understood the essence of it. In addition, he already had the Byakugan, so he could see the flow of chakra in the opponent's body clearly. With the insight of the Sharingan, he could even see the changes in the nature of the opponent's chakra when attacking. In this way, coupled with the effect of LV4 learning ability, everything was naturally understood. Swish! Ishigamihara twisted his body, avoided all attacks, and took the starting posture of the soft fist. This scene fell into the eyes of the three people, and they were immediately shocked. Could it be? The three of them had the same thought at the same time, but just as they were about to take action, Ishigamihara in front of them moved. Soft fist method anti-Bagua palm. Seeing the moves and countering them, Ishigamihara had learned soft fist method Bagua palm, so he would naturally respond. His response method was very simple, which was to change according to the attacks of the three people. In this way, soft fist method anti-Bagua palm came into being. The three people's faces suddenly changed, and some were even dumbfounded. They wanted to respond, but Ishigamihara did not give them more time. 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms, 128 palms. There were constant bangs in the field, and every time a sound was heard, one of the three people would tremble. Looking around, it was as if a ball of red light was rotating in the field, but the three people stood still like wooden sculptures, with only the look of horror on their faces. After a moment, Ishigamihara left the circle and turned to walk towards the camp. Let's go, rope tree, let's go back. Ah, Shang Shu was inexplicably surprised. He looked at Ishigamihara and then at the three people, feeling very confused. Are those three guys okay? Nawaki asked. Ishigamihara said without even turning his head, it's okay, let them calm down here. In his mind, Uchiha Izuna finally gave his evaluation. What a monster. As Ishigamihara and Nawaki left, only Hyuga Sanri was left in the field. The movements of the three were very strange at this time. Each of them maintained the movements after being attacked, and even their expressions were distorted, which seemed quite painful. The faces of the three were red, as if they were overly congested. If someone looked at the three with a white eye at this time, they would find that the three had a lot of problems. The soft fist method, Bagwazong, has the effect of acupuncture, which can cut off the flow of chakra in the enemy's body. The effect of the soft fist method, anti-Bagwazong, or reverse Bagwazong, is completely the opposite, which is to accelerate the flow of chakra in the enemy's body. However, this acceleration is disordered. In simple terms, the chakra of the attacked target will be injected into the body by the attacker, like a trigger, which directly causes the chakra of the injured person to become disordered, and this disorder is difficult to control. It can be said that unless the chakra can be checked by more than Ishigamihara, or the control of one's own chakra is extremely high, otherwise basically don't think of breaking this effect. The three Hyuga are in this state at the moment. When the chakra flow is cut off, the worst that can happen is a loss of combat effectiveness, but the damage to oneself will not be too great. However, the consequences of chakra disorder are much more painful than this. It feels like someone is cutting the flesh with a knife. As long as there is chakra disorder, pain will be felt in that part of the body, and this pain will worsen over time, comparable to torture. Of course, Ishigamihara never thought of killing anyone. He was actually mentally prepared for the Hyuga and Uchiha people to come. Doing this is just to express his attitude to these two ninja clans. Obviously, after what happened today, both the Uchiha and the Hyuga can probably understand Ishigamihara's thoughts, and it will probably save Ishigamihara a lot of trouble in the future. As for whether these two ninja clans will be blind and cause trouble again, Ishigamihara said it doesn't matter. In less than half a minute, one of the three regained his mobility and fell to the ground, curling up and rolling around, looking particularly painful. Then there were two more screams, and the three of them all suffered similar fates. The movement here had actually been noticed by others a long time ago, but one side was the Uchiha and the other was the Hyuga, and the one facing them was Ishigamihara. Anyone with a discerning eye knew why this was happening, as it was related to the Sharingan and the Byakugan, and no one in the entire camp could intervene except Orochimaru and Hatake Tsukumo. And Orochimaru had Ishigami according to Uehara's instructions, they would not take the initiative to participate. As for Hatake Tsukumo, as someone who had watched him fight with Ebizo throughout the whole process, he naturally knew his strength and knew that Ishigamihara would not suffer in this situation, so he did not show up. In this way, without the orders of the two, other people in the camp would not rashly intervene. This caused the 6 ninjas of Uchiha and Hyuga to suffer a huge loss at Ishigamihara's hands this time. Fortunately, the screams of the 3 attracted the medical ninjas in the camp, and they were rescued. Hiss, what a cruel method. If you were a little later, your meridians would have been irreversibly damaged. A medical ninja said. These people naturally watched from a distance early on. After watching the whole process, they had a new understanding of Ishigamihara's strength. Some of the people who came had strange expressions and couldn't help but say, that's a genius brought by Orochimaru. I'm afraid that the Hokage also values him. Although he has opened the Byakugan and Sharingan, he has a special identity. I heard that he inherited the legacy of Mito-sama. How dare you? The 3 Hyuga people also reacted at this time. The chakras all over their bodies were combed by a group of medical ninjas. They felt better and looked at each other. At this time, if they didn't understand Ishigamihara's intention of taking action this time, they would be killed directly. Go back and tell your main family that it is best for you not to get involved in this child's affairs. At this time, a hoarse voice came over, and everyone turned their heads and saw Orochimaru and Hatake Tsukumo appear at some point, looking in the direction where Ishigamihara left. Lord Orochimaru, Lord Tsukumo. A group of medical ninjas spoke up hurriedly. The 3 Hyuga clan members supported each other and barely stood up. Their faces were still filled with pain, but the leader was also tough and said directly, Lord Orochimaru, this is about the bloodline of my Hyuga clan, Byakugan, we will never allow the bloodline of our clan to be passed on. Orochimaru smiled when he heard this, shook his head indifferently, and then said, really? Then I wish you success. After that, he left alone without caring about these people. Well, Hatake Tsukumo sighed helplessly, looked at the 3 people and said, Harakun is not a weakling. Don't underestimate him just because he is a child. You have suffered losses before, so I think you should understand this. I personally suggest that you, the Hyuga clan, should adjust your mentality and approach him in the most positive state, otherwise. The rest of the words were not finished, but everyone present could understand them, especially the 3 people from Hyuga, who looked even uglier at this time. On the one hand, they did suffer a loss, and they had seen how powerful Ishigamihara was. The anti-Bagwazong almost left them with a psychological trauma. On the other hand, it was because of Ishigamihara's age. He was so young but had such a strong strength. It was hard to imagine how much he could grow in the future. The more they thought about it, the more pressure they felt. As for Ishigamihara, he naturally would not pay attention to what happened after he left, but instead focused on Nawaki. Why are you looking at me like that? Shang Shu felt very uncomfortable being looked at by him. I forgot to ask, what is your chakra attribute? When Rope Tree heard this, he grinned and said, Hey, I have 5 attribute chakra, naturally. Ishigamihara raised his eyebrows, looked at him carefully, and seemed to be thinking. What about you? Nawaki asked back. Ishigamihara did not hide. 5 attributes plus yin and yang. Well, the chakra attribute of most people is either single, or better ones can have dual attributes. It is not that you can only use ninjutsu of a certain attribute according to your innate chakra, but that using ninjutsu of the same attribute in terms of innate attributes will have certain advantages. The advantages are reflected in the learning speed and degree of use, which can be understood as talent. It is not that you cannot use other escape techniques. Many ninjas have mastered escape techniques of other attributes through acquired learning. This involves the change of chakra properties when learning other escape techniques, which will increase the difficulty a lot. Just like Naruto in the original plot, his innate attribute is wind, and the most suitable thing to learn is wind escape ninjutsu, which is also helpful in developing wind escape spiral shuriken. But in the later part of the plot, Naruto can also use escape techniques of other attributes, such as various spiral shuriken, which include attribute chakra. People with many innate chakra attributes may not necessarily achieve great success in the future, but their talents will definitely not be too bad. If this situation occurs in Nawase, coupled with his physique of the Senju clan and the bloodline of the first generation of Hokage, it can only mean that Nawase has a good talent. As for why Ishigamihara suddenly asked this, it was just that he suddenly had a special idea. Starting from Uzumaki Mito and then to Senju Hashirama, Ishigamihara has received a lot of favors from these two couples. The former ensured Ishigamihara's status and position in Konoha in the early days, and the latter taught Ishigamihara the wood release, which gave him more confidence to gain a foothold in the ninja world. So if possible, it is also right to repay Nawaki. However, this matter is not urgent, so Ishigamihara is just asking now. Work hard. Ishigamihara patted Nawase's shoulder and said nothing more. You are such a secretive guy. Looking at Ishigamihara's look, it was obvious that he didn't intend to say anything more, so Nawaki curled his lips and didn't bother him anymore. Today's events were nothing to Ishigamihara, but they were no small matter to other people in the camp, especially since such events were destined to be impossible to keep secret, so those who should know would know it soon. They were supposed to leave the camp in the next 2 days and go to the rain country to meet up with Tsunade, but because of this incident, Ishigamihara and the others had to stay here for a few more days. The reason was simple: if Orochimaru knew about this, the village would definitely know about it. As the Hokage, he would certainly respond, so Ishigamihara and the others had to wait here for orders from the rear. After all, it was. During wartime, some orders are mandatory, such as the transfer of ninjas, especially orders from the rear, which will be more sensitive than at any other time. In this case, even Orochimaru has to consider the impact more. After all, it is wartime and he cannot be willful. Ishigamihara understands this very well. In fact, to put it bluntly, he doesn't care that much. After repelling a sneak attack from the Sand Village, he knew that there would be no unexpected situations here in the short term, so he just waited. Facts have proved that Orochimaru's premonition was very accurate, or he had expected that there would be new orders from the rear. It's just that this time the order was a little beyond Orochimaru's expectations. Haru-kun, it looks like you'll need to stay with us for a while, Orochimaru said. Orochimaru took out the scroll and explained, according to the order of the Hokage, we still need to go to the rain country to join Tsunade and the others, and you have to go with us. I thought the Hokage would transfer you back, but now it seems that the teacher still has some courage. Ishigamihara took the scroll and took a look at it, and he knew what Orochimaru meant. The scroll had only one meaning, asking Ishigamihara to follow Orochimaru and protect himself during the war. There were no other orders. Just thinking about it, Ishigamihara understood what Sarutobi Hiruzen meant by giving this order, which was basically to protect him. To be precise, he didn't want him to return to the village at this time, because in that case, he would have to face the two families, the Hyuga and the Uchiha. In times of war, no small matter can be ignored, especially if there was any dispute between the Hyuga and the Uchiha because of Ishigamihara, then it would be obvious what good it would be for Konoha. Of course, Sarutobi Hiruzen and the others did have other ideas. After all, as the Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen naturally would not give up Ishigamihara, who possesses both the Byakugan and the Sharingan. To put it bluntly, Ishigamihara is the designated successor of Uzumaki Mito, so he is a natural Hokage. As the Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen naturally has no intention of pushing away the power that belongs to the Hokage. So at this time, although the battlefield is dangerous, it is not a bad place to avoid disputes. Let Ishigamihara stay with Orochimaru, and go to the Rain Country later. In this way, with the 3 ninjas around, Ishigamihara's safety will be greatly increased. Ishigamihara could even guess that there must have been a quarrel in the Hokage's office because of him. This kind of thing is interesting just to think about it. I understand, Lord Orochimaru, when do we set off? Ishigamihara replied. Orochimaru was very decisive. Let's set off now. Yes. In a dark cave, the environment was dark and gloomy, and it seemed like a place abandoned by the ninja world. In this strange environment, a series of footsteps sounded, coming from far away and approaching, and soon they stepped into a huge underground cave. Master Madara, big news. A voice came from a pale humanoid creature. The creature was jumping up and down, not affected by the dim surroundings at all. He seemed quite excited. There was a stone platform deep in the huge underground cave, and on the stone platform was a figure was leaning against a stone chair, eyes closed. This person had long black hair that covered his face. He was wearing a black robe, and his figure seemed to blend in with the surroundings, with a dark temperament. What's the matter? The figure on the stone chair spoke, raised his head slightly, and revealed a blood-red eye, which looked extremely weird. The white humanoid creature hurriedly approached and said, "There is news from the front battlefield of Konoha and Sunagaku. An incredible guy has appeared over there, with dual bloodlines of the Byakugan and Sharingan." The man on the stone chair was naturally Uchiha Madara. He was slightly startled when he heard this, and his old face was a little confused. Possessing dual bloodlines of the Byakugan and Sharingan. Uchiha Madara frowned as he spoke to himself, staring at the white Zetsu in front of him, and said in a cold voice, "Tell me in detail." Yes, White Zetsu sensed the killing intent and dared not to jump out again, and hurriedly said, "That guy is from Konoha, 12 years old, named Ishigamihara, with flaming red hair, and may be related to the Uzumaki clan. He opened the Byakugan and Sharingan at the same time on the battlefield, defeated Ebizo of Sand Village, and later defeated 6 ninjas from Uchiha and Hyuga." As he told the story, Uchiha Madara understood the whole story. Ishigami. Uchiha Madara paused slightly and said, "I have some impression that there used to be a family that sold stone materials named Ishigami. If it is really that family, it will be interesting." After saying that, he stared at the white Zetsu again and ordered, "Send more white Zetsu to find the child." After confirming the movement, "Tell me. I want to go and see it myself." It was a nice early morning with clear skies. Ishigamihara, Orochimaru and Nawaki, along with a team of 4 led by Tetsuya Hyuga, left the camp quietly and headed north. The north of the river country is the Rain Country, which is adjacent to the other country. The reason why it is called the river country is because the water from above creates many large and small rivers within the river country. So the 7 of them actually had a smooth journey and did not encounter any unexpected situations. In less than 3 days, the Rain Country was already in sight. "What's wrong, Harakun?" During another rest period, Orochimaru saw Ishigamihara frowning and looking somewhere, and asked. Ishigamihara was silent for a moment, then shook his head, "Nothing." Orochimaru narrowed his eyes, also looked in that direction, and said in a hoarse voice, "Is there something there?" Ishigamihara said, "It's hard to say. Do you want to go and take a look?" "Okay." The 7 people set off immediately, stopped after walking about 4 or 5 kilometers, and searched carefully within this range, but found nothing. Rope Tree also frowned and said, "Did you sense anything?" There have been similar situations along the way, but the result was the same every time. Even if Hinata Toru rolled his eyes the whole time, he still found nothing. Ishigamihara did not hide it and nodded slightly. "I do have some feeling, but it's very vague, and I can't be sure." Orochimaru licked his lips and laughed softly. "It seems we have to be more cautious." Rope Tree quickly cheered up and nodded. "Okay teacher, I will pay attention." Ishigamihara just nodded, without saying much, but he was talking to Uchiha Izuna in his mind. "There may be a surprise waiting for you later." Uchiha Izuna didn't understand and asked, "Surprise? What are you planning, kid?" Ishigami Principal said, the water in the ninja world is much deeper than you think. You, explain yourself clearly. Ishigamihara ignored him and scanned the surroundings. Under the vision of his Byakugan, he could vaguely see a blurry chakra moving away into the distance. Compared with Hyuga Tetsuya, Ishigamihara's Byakugan is purer, but because of what happened last time, Hyuga Tetsuya, as a member of the branch family, didn't talk to Ishigamihara much along the way. It's not that Hyuga Tetsuya has any opinion on Ishigamihara. On the contrary, as a teammate, Hyuga Tetsuya understands Ishigamihara's talent and ability better than others. It's just that due to certain rules of the clan, he can only behave like this. Ishigamihara seemed normal about this and didn't care much. Retracting his gaze, Ishigamihara couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth slightly, and then quickly retracted. The same thing, along the way this happened several times, but each time nothing was gained. Of course, this was only true for Orochimaru and Naoki, but for Ishigamihara, he already knew who was behind the scenes. Apart from Uchiha Madara, Ishigamihara couldn't think of anyone else who could do this. The only ones who could hide so well under the Byakugan were the White Zetsu. It's not hard to guess that Ishigamihara himself has been targeted by Uchiha Madara. After all, having both the Byakugan and the Sharingan as dual bloodlines is very rare no matter how you look at it. It's normal that he could attract the attention of Uchiha Madara. The rest of the journey was normal, and there were no more accidents. However, the three of them didn't know that the White Zetsu, who had been following them all the way, was shrinking his body and hiding behind a rock, with a helpless look on his face. Well, this can't be considered my fault. Lord Madara asked me to follow, but that brat is too sharp. He can even detect my mayfly technique. How can I follow him? Thinking like this, White Zetsu decided to retreat first and inform Uchiha Madara of the news. As for other things, White Zetsu couldn't think of them. On the other side, as time passed, around noon, a group of 3 people finally arrived at the Konoha camp in the Land of Rain. However, the atmosphere here was different from what was expected. Most of the Konoha ninjas were in low spirits or had solemn expressions. Only after seeing Orochimaru did they show surprise. Lord Orochimaru. Lord Orochimaru is here. Great, Lord Orochimaru is finally here. The 3 were quickly brought into the camp, and Ishigamihara also knew the reason for the low morale here. The Jiraiya was injured and unconscious, and Tsunade fell into autism because of something. Now every time she sees blood, she trembles all over and can hardly maintain her combat power. Naoki's face changed, and he hurriedly asked, "What happened to my sister?" The Konoha ninja who led the way was embarrassed, and after hesitating for a moment, he said, "I can't say the details, but Lord Dan died." Orochimaru's face changed slightly, and his brows frowned. "Kato Dan died. When did it happen?" 7 days ago. The Konoha ninja looked ashamed, and then said, "We should have gone to support, but the people of Yuyan are more crazy than we thought. This time, the counterattack caused us heavy losses. It was under such circumstances that Jiraiya-sama faced the salamander Hanzo alone and was seriously injured. I want to see my sister." Naoki couldn't stand it anymore, and he bypassed the other party and ran towards the camp. Seeing this, Ishigamihara could only follow. Orochimaru took a deep breath, gestured to Hyuga Tetsuya and the other 4, and quickly followed. The atmosphere in the camp was depressed, and there were many wounded. Naoki quickly found Tsunade, but the latter was not in a good state at this time. She looked dazed and sat against a tree without saying a word. "Sister, sister." Tsunade reacted to the shout of Rope Tree. She subconsciously looked towards the source of the voice and saw Rope Tree with a worried look on his face. Rope Tree. Tsunade at this stage still looked a little immature. Her delicate face was full of fatigue. When she saw her brother coming, her eyes were inexplicably red. "Why are you here?" she asked. Naoki said hurriedly. "I asked to come here on my own initiative. Sister, are you okay?" Tsunade forced a smile. "I'm fine, don't worry about me." At this time, Orochimaru also came over, and after seeing Tsunade's condition, his brows frowned even tighter. "This is not like you, Tsunade." Orochimaru's voice was hoarser than usual. As a teammate, he naturally didn't want Tsunade to behave like this. "Oh, I made you laugh at me." Orochimaru smiled inexplicably, and then said, In other words, the situation here is very bad now. Tsunade nodded, and did not hide it. I can't give any more orders. Seeing this, Orochimaru nodded and said directly, I understand, leave the command task to me. Then, Orochimaru said to Ishigamihara, from now on, you will leave my team and go to the side close to the rain country to be on guard. I give you the right to act freely, as long as you think it's okay, then do it. I need you to ensure that the camp here will not be attacked by the rain village, can you do it? Yes, Lord Orochimaru. Ishigamihara said nothing and disappeared in an instant after receiving the order. Teacher, Shengshu was anxious when he saw this. Tsunade also stole a puzzled look. Orochimaru chuckled and said, that child will be the main force to end the war with the rain country. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.